UK Asian Business Council and the CEO of Asia TV. Thank you.
It is my singular honour and privilege to welcome Mr. Kapil Sibal, MP from India, today at the House of Lords. A warm welcome to Mr. Sibal, who is here today seated with us. I would ask you all to give a round of applause for Mr. Sibal. He travelled all the way from India, and let me tell you this, that the day he arrived, he was running a fever of 102. So, thank you very much, Mr. Sibal. It's always a challenge to introduce someone who needs no introduction. If I were to list the accomplishments of Mr. Sibal, we will be here all afternoon. However, I will be seriously amiss if I don't mention the highlights of his illustrious career spanning several decades. Mr. Kapil Sibal joined the Bar Association in 1972. He was designated a senior lawyer in 1983. He was the Additional Solicitor General of India between 1989 and 1990 as well. An anthology of Mr. Sibal's poems titled Eyewitness Partial Observation was published by Rowley Books in New Delhi in August 2008. He has also contributed several articles on various prominent issues such as security, nuclear proliferation, and terrorism in national dailies and periodicals. In the 2004 elections, Mr. Sibal became MP by winning the Chandni Chowk constituency against TV anchor Simriti Irani of the Bharatiya Janata Party in the national territory representing the Congress, and was inducted into the cabinet under Prime Minister Manmohan Singh as the Union Minister for Science, Technology and Earth Sciences. He won the constituency of Chandni Chowk for the second time for the Indian National Congress in the Lok Sabha elections of 2009. Over the years, he has held several important positions in the Government of India and the society, such as Additional Solicitor General of India, December 1989 to 1990, Member Board of Management, Indira Gandhi National Open University 1993, President Supreme Court Bar Association 1995 to 96, 97 to 98, and then 2001 to 2002. Member Rajya Sabha, July 1998. Member Executive Council, Institute of Constitutional and Parliamentary Studies, 2001. Member Business Advisory Committee of August 2001. Member Committee of Home Affairs, January 2002. Co-Chairman Indo-US Parliamentary Forum 2002. Member Board of International AIDS Vaccine Initiative 2002 member. Program Board of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation Indian AIDS Initiative 2003. Working Group of Arbitrary Detention set up by the Human Rights Commission, Geneva. He was the Minister of Communications and Information Technology from 2011 to 2014. Minister of Human Resource Development from 2009 to 2012. Minister of Science and Technology from 2004 to 2009. Minister of Law and Justice from 2013 to 2014. Mr. Sibal is currently the member of the Upper House, Rajya Sabha, and has brought several important issues to the attention of Indian public and participated in very important debates in the House. He has recently published a book called Shades of Truth, which provides factual data and analysis of the serious challenges facing India. It is available on Amazon, and should anyone wish to apprise oneself about the state of affairs in India, I strongly recommend reading it. India needs now more than ever before high caliber people with impeccable credentials like Mr. Sibal to be at the helm of affairs. I'm sure we are looking forward to hearing Mr. Sibal himself as he talks about the challenges facing India and the state of affairs in India. Let's welcome Mr. Sibal. Allow him a round of applause.
Thanks everybody for being here this afternoon. So we're going to talk about India and what's happening around there in the context of the changes that are taking place all over the world, in fact. You have new regimes coming up across the Atlantic, a new president of the United States who is making headway and headlines on a daily basis. You have strong men emerging everywhere in the world. Putin in Russia, and of course in other parts of the world as well, including Turkey. So I'm going to talk about them today, but I think the world has changed radically. And I think we need to recognize that. There was a time when empires colonized territories and enriched themselves. there's been a huge shift from that era. Today, what's happening in the world is that there is a colonization of the mind. No longer a colonization of territories, but colonization of the mind. That's happening in the United States of America. It's happening in other parts of the world. And it's happening in a way that frightens me in India. Part of the reason for that is that the state has become exceptionally powerful because of information technology. And you can actually, through social media platforms, you can actually, in a post-truth world, determine what the truth is. And that's a great danger to the liberal traditions from which we come from. We think about it this way, that the Congress Party, the seeds of the Congress Party, actually germinated here, even while the empire was gaining strength. And the reason for that was simple, that the liberal traditions of that era ultimately resulted in our independence. Most of the great leaders of the Congress Party at that point in time, who actually set up the Congress Party, W.C. Banerjee, Surendranath Banerjee, Dadabhai Naoroji, they were all, one of them was a member of parliament here at that point in time. And while all that was happening, while the empire was getting stronger and stronger, it's the liberal traditions of institutions in this country that ultimately led to the formation of the Congress Party and ultimately the freedom struggle which led to independence. That liberal tradition is being lost. We're living in a world where truth does not matter. What matters is control. How do you control the minds of people? How do you colonize the minds of people? And that happens, and you will realize that that's happening all over the world with strong leaders. People say it's important. In fact, I was talking to a friend just now who mentioned, Modi appears to be very strong and therefore he's liked. I don't know what strength means. In fact, if you ask me, you cannot have a strong leader in a country like India, because India as a nation is a coalition. It's a multi-layered, multi-faceted coalition. There are several kinds of Hindus in India. The one variety that we see is the Prime Minister of India, who is far removed from Hinduism, because he embraces an ideology contrary to the values of Hinduism, which is called Hindutva. It is an ideology. You proselytize. You use violent means. You attack communities. You make people feel that they are unsafe. You make people conform to your ideology. If that's what a strong leader stands for, I'm afraid that those are attributes of a leader who has a fascist bent of mind. And that's the reality. As I mentioned to you, India is essentially a coalition. Dalits are Hindus, but the Brahminical Hindu cannot stand the Dalit. I am a Hindu, but I have nothing to do with Modi. So within the Hindu community, there are it's multi-layered thought processes within the community itself. While the city of London has people of 240 nationalities and about 330 languages, you have about 3 lakh dialects in India? How can a strong leader control a multi-layered population? which cannot be controlled through the concept of a strong leader. And that's what I want to talk to you today. Let's talk of the history of India for a while, when we were a coalition. If you remember, with Mrs. Gandhi's assassination, Rajiv Gandhi came with a huge majority, over 420 members of parliament. But he lost that majority in no time at all. Then for an interregnum, there was the VP Singh government, supported by the BJP at that point in time, and within 2 years that government fell. Then Dr. Manmohan Singh, Prime Minister under whom I worked and held several portfolios. When he became the finance minister in Narsimha Rao's government in 1991, he decided to liberalize the economy completely. That happened in a coalition government. It didn't happen in a government where there was a strong leader. That liberalization process embarked India on a steady pace of growth, far away from the Hindu rate of growth, which was 3.5%. He liberalized the aeronautical industry, the telecom sector. All sectors of the economy were liberalized. And that started the great story of India. It happened under a coalition government. Then in 1997, there was another coalition government, and the dream budget was presented by my good friend Chidambaram. It's called the dream budget of 1997 under a coalition government. Then Vajpayee ji became Prime Minister under a coalition government. He decided on the famous infrastructure project called Quadrilateral. The major roadways, highways connecting the country in a coalition government. He visited Lahore under a coalition government. The telecom communication revolution started under a coalition government. He invited to Agra, Musharraf to Agra in a coalition government. He crossed the Wagah border under a coalition government. Pokhran 2 happened in a coalition government. There was no great leader at that point in time. Then came Dr. Manmohan Singh. The Indo-US nuclear deal happened in a coalition government. Right to information, coalition government. Right to education, coalition government. Manrega, which is the right to work, minimum of 100 days employment for every family, poor family, coalition government. All this happened in coalition governments. And what did a great strong leader give us? Let's analyze it in the last 4.5 years. What is this great strong leader given us? Demonetization, which dropped our GDP by 2% after 2016. On the 8th of November, we're going to have 2 years, the second year of its anniversary very soon. 8th of November, at 8 o'clock in the evening, he gave a speech and said at 12 o'clock, all cash, the entire cash economy in this country will be frozen. What was the result? Poor people could not go to the bank and could not spend their money that they had with them. And see the enormity of the decision. And I just give you a small figure that you'll appreciate. Of the 1.3 billion people in our country, 800 million people earn less than 10,000 rupees a month. They will have bank accounts. And they couldn't spend their cash, which they needed for their daily living, to buy food, to pay fees for the children, to pay to the doctor if one of their family was in the hospital. All got frozen. I must say, this must have been. And Modi, when he gave his speech, said 4 things, that I have done this for 4 reasons. He said, number 1, this will ensure that there is no corruption in our country, because cash will vanish. There's more cash today than it was in 2016 in the Indian economy today. Then he said fake notes will vanish. There are more fake notes today than there were in 2016. Then he said we'll become a digital economy. It's a far cry. It's a dream which will take years to come true. And this, he said terrorism will stop because terrorists use cash. There have been more terrorist attacks across the border now than there ever been before. And what did he do? And that's what strong leaders do. And I think it's time for all of us to realize that they are bad news for the world. What do strong leaders do? They capture the media. That's the first thing that they do. We call in Hindi Godi media, means laptop media, lapdogs. You cannot publish any news that is against the government. So if it's demonetization, every news channel will sing paeans about demonetization. What a wonderful step it is. No contrary news will be allowed to be published. That's the media today. No contrarian view is allowed to be seen on television networks, barring 1 or 2. And for those 1 or 2, the taxman will get them. You start tax proceedings. So you capture the media. That way, you ensure that there is no contrarian view that people understand or listen to. Number 2, you ensure that you have your own men in investigating agencies. Central Bureau of Investigation, Enforcement Directorate, who deals with foreign exchange, National Authority of India, which deals with NIA, National Investigating Agency, which deals with bigger issues. So you put your own men in all these places to ensure that any opposition leader, if he speaks out, you get these agencies after them. You start sending notices to them, demean them in public. The CBI will send a notice to Mr. Chidambaram to come and appear before them. And then that will be shown by the lapdog TV channels that look, this fellow has done something wrong. So you destroy the reputation of opposition leaders by taking control of the investigating agencies. That's not all. Then you have a social media army. You get from the United States, pay them $100,000, $50,000, and you have about 400, 500, 600 people, 1,000 people working on a daily basis. So all the news that you want on the social media platforms is fueled through this army. So your social media platforms then are trolling the opposition, supporting government policies and whatever the leader is saying. You have the television channels in control. You have the investigating agencies in control. So what are you left with? Courts. Then you try and set up systems through which matters go to particular judges. I don't know how that happens. You appoint judges to ensure, and I'm not just talking about the highest court, I'm talking about the lower judiciary. You appoint particular judges who are going to deal with particular cases in which some of these leaders are involved. And make sure that the decision is in your favor. If he sort of dilly-dallies, asks you to appear in court transferring overnight. So when the next judge is appointed, he can't do a thing about it. So attempt to infiltrate into the court system. So now you have the judiciary, where you are attempting to infiltrate. You control the investigating agencies. You control the media and the social platform network. All that you control. Over and above that, don't give a press conference. In the last 4.5 years or more, Mr. Modi has never given a press conference. You don't give a press conference, no questions can be asked. Number two, when you go to the news, to a news channel, then the questions are all prepared. It's all choreographed. The Prime Minister will know what the question is, and he will decide how to answer it. And he will decide what the question should be. When he's speaking in any platform, in a public meeting or anywhere else, nothing else will be shown on television other than him. So that's a strong leader for you, sir. What does that do? And this is, of course, at the governmental level. How do you otherwise subvert democracy? You do it by very simple means. Every appointment that you make on any position, that person must have an affiliation with the RSS. The RSS is an organization which supports the BJP politically. At one time it was seen to be a social reform organization. But it's a highly political organization today for the simple reason that all the major ministers in the government of India belong to the RSS, including the Prime Minister. All appointments made to universities, vice chancellors of universities, are of people affiliated to the RSS. Openly so. They openly say so. All gubernatorial, all governors in India, and when I say all, I mean about 90% of them, and there are a few exceptions, are all belonging to the RSS. So they will then, if you want to destabilize the government, the governor will work in tandem with the central government to destabilize an opposition government.